the sage, and the shadows. Beauty is only known because ugliness exists. Good is understood because evil has a place. The world thrives on opposites, but true wisdom sees beyond them. A sage knows that all things, light and dark, effort and ease, are simply different expressions of the same unity. By embracing both, without attachment, one finds harmony.
The Sage and the Shadows. Once in a time, before clocks counted moments, there was a village caught between two mountains, one bathed in eternal light, the other forever shadowed. The people, much like their divided home, lived in contrasts. They called the bright side good, where crops grew tall and life felt easy. They whispered about the dark side, the bad, where the land was dry and few dared to go. But one day, a sage arrived, an old traveler with eyes that seemed to hold both sunrise and sunset within them. He sat on the village boundary, where light met shadow, where the air seemed to hum with a balance only he could see. A curious villager approached him and asked, "Why do you sit here? Come to the light where all is good, and leave the darkness behind." The sage smiled, and his voice was as calm as a gentle stream. "Tell me," he said, "if there were no shadows, how would you know the beauty of the light?" The villager blinked, puzzled. "But the darkness is where danger lives. It is cold, unwelcoming, ugly." "And yet," the sage replied, "when you sleep, it is the embrace of night that gives you rest. When the crops need water, the rain clouds, dark and heavy, bring life." Still unsure, the villager shook his head. "But light is where we find happiness. Isn't that what matters most?" The sage stood and walked into the shadows, beckoning the villager to follow. Reluctantly, the villager stepped into the cool shade, his heart quickening. "What now?" he asked, his voice trembling. "Close your eyes," the sage instructed, "and listen." At first, the villager only heard his own breath, but then, slowly, he heard something more, the soft rustle of leaves, the faint murmur of the wind, the heartbeat of the world, quiet and constant. "I hear it," he whispered. "This," the sage said, "is the sound of life, of balance. The light dazzles, but it blinds you to the subtle truths. In the shadow, you learn to feel what cannot be seen." The villager opened his eyes, and for the first time, he saw the shadowed mountain for what it was, beautiful in its own way, a mirror to the light, not its enemy but its complement. It was in the balance of both that the valley thrived. "Why do we fear what is necessary?" the villager asked. The sage smiled. "Because we forget that all things are one, just appearing differently. The long needs the short to define it, just as night defines the day. True peace comes not from rejecting one side but from embracing both." The villager, now humbled, bowed his head. "I see. It is not about choosing light over dark, but about living in harmony with both." And so, the sage left the village, his footsteps neither heavy nor light, disappearing into the horizon where day always met night. And the villagers, now wiser, lived no longer in fear of the shadows, knowing they were simply the other side of the same sky.
Two universal life lessons. The poem's story touches upon two profound truths that apply to all human experiences, transcending time, place, and circumstance. 1. Embrace life's dualities. Life is full of opposites, joy and sorrow, ease and hardship, success and failure. Our tendency is often to chase after the good and reject the bad. Yet, as the sage teaches, true wisdom lies in understanding that both sides are essential to life's fullness. The light would have no meaning without the dark to define it, just as we would not appreciate happiness if we never knew sadness. In today's world, this lesson can be applied by learning to accept the challenges that come our way, instead of resisting them. Hardships, like the shadowed mountain, are not our enemies, but teachers that reveal the depth of life. When we embrace both the positive and negative aspects of life, we can live more peacefully, without the constant need to judge or categorize our experiences as good or bad. 2. Act without attachment to outcomes. The sage embodies another key lesson, acting without seeking rewards. He teaches, he nurtures, he works, but not for recognition or accolades. This reflects the idea of effortless action, doing things not for personal gain, but because they are simply the right thing to do. In our modern society, we are often conditioned to focus on results, achieving goals, hitting targets, and gaining approval. But this can lead to stress, anxiety, and a sense of incompleteness. Lao Tzu's teaching reminds us that true fulfillment comes not from the outcomes of our actions, but from the joy of the actions themselves. By shifting our focus from results to the process, we can live more freely, with less burden and more presence in each moment. Application to life today. These lessons are timeless, offering practical wisdom for navigating the complexities of modern life. Embracing duality in life, we all face moments where things don't go our way, whether it's in relationships, careers, or personal health. Instead of viewing these setbacks as purely negative, we can see them as part of a larger balance. Success would not be as sweet without the lessons learned from failure. Recognizing the necessity of both aspects allows us to live more calmly and to be more resilient in the face of challenges. Acting without attachment. In today's world, we're often driven by the desire for success, recognition, and rewards. But by focusing too much on outcomes, we miss the beauty of the journey. Whether you're working on a project, building relationships, or pursuing personal goals, try to shift your attention to the joy of the work itself. This doesn't mean you shouldn't strive for success. It means finding peace and satisfaction in the doing, regardless of the result. In memory of Dr. Wayne Dyer. As a follower of the teachings of Dr. Wayne Dyer, I offer this reflection in his memory. Dr. Dyer often spoke about the beauty of living in harmony with life's natural flow, accepting the opposites that make up the human experience, and acting without attachment to outcomes. His work continues to inspire millions of people to live more balanced, purposeful lives. Let us honor his legacy by remembering that life's true peace lies not in controlling it, but in embracing its dualities and allowing the mystery to unfold as it will. In gratitude and in memory of Dr. Wayne Dyer.